So good evening to everybody. On this August occasion of National Engineers Day, I, Colonel Rai, take this proud privilege of beginning the proceedings of the day. We are extremely grateful to the eminent experts who are present here today. Dr. Ajay Kumar, former Defense Secretary, Ministry of Defense, Mr. K. Ananth Krishnan, formerly Executive Vice President and CTO, TCS, Professor Manindra Agrawal, very renowned faculty at IIT Kanpur, and Professor P. Rajalakshmi, Director NMICPS at IIT Hyderabad. And of course, the panel discussion, we have requested Professor Anurag Kumar, former Director IISc, Bangalore, to steer this particular panel discussion. So the program proposed for today is initially after the introduction of the honorable panelists, I'll request Professor Manna to read out a small welcome address followed by the panel discussion, and wherein Professor Anurag Kumar would steer the discussion, which would be about briefly have a short interaction with the participants followed by vote of thanks. And it is my proud privilege now to introduce the speakers for today. Professor Anurag Kumar, who would be coordinating this event. He is a graduate of IIT Kanpur with PhD from Cornell, and he has been the faculty member at IISc Bangalore in the EC department. He was director of IISc Bangalore from 2014 to 20, and after superannuation, he is an honorary professor there. He's got vast number of publications in various international and national journals, conferences, and has co-authored 2 major textbooks on these subjects. He was the 1977 President's Gold Medal at IIT. He was elected fellow of IEEE, INSA, INAE, and IISc, the World Academy of Sciences, and he received the 2015 WASPIC Award for Information Technology and the 2017 IEEE Award for Engineering Excellence. He is a recipient of J.C. Bose National Fellowship, awarded by Department of Science and Technology for the period 2011 to 21. It is again my honor to present the short introduction of Dr. Ajay Kumar, IAS. He is a BTech from IIT Kanpur and Masters and PhD from the University of Minnesota. Dr. Ajay Kumar rose to become one of the senior most bureaucrats in India. He was the longest serving defense secretary during the crucial period between August 2019 and October 2022. He also served as secretary in the Department of Defense Production. He was the key architect for several major transformations, restructuring of higher defense management, formation of Chief of Defense Staff in the Indian Armed Forces, the launch of Agniveer scheme, and transformation of the defense industry ecosystem, restructuring of ordnance factories. Before these contributions, he was the Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. He is a distinguished alumnus awardee of IIT Kanpur, a fellow of INAE, currently a distinguished visiting professor at IIT Kanpur. Today amongst us have Mr. K. Ananth Krishnan, who retired as the Chief Technology Officer of the TCS, India's largest IT company. He was responsible for research, innovation, and co-innovation. Under his leadership, TCS created a significant portfolio of patents, papers, and IP, as well as large open innovation networks across academia, startups, strategic partners, and customers. He was elected a Fellow of Indian National Academy of Engineering in 2013. He was named a distinguished alumnus of IIT Delhi in 2009. He has been listed in Computer World's Premier 100 IT Leaders in 2007 and in InfoWorld's Top 25 CTOs in 2007. Ananth is an MTech in Computer Science and MSc in Physics from IIT Delhi and a BSc Physics from Ferguson College in Pune. He was a successful quizzer in his younger days and is still occasionally active. Professor Agrawal, Manindra Agrawal, is a role model for academic faculty in India, having, along with his 2 undergraduate students, solved a major puzzle in the theoretical computer science, that is PRIMES, is in P, for which he was celebrated the world over, thus establishing the importance of working on really hard and impactful problems. He was awarded the Padma Shri in 2013, Infosys Prize in 2008, Fulkerson Prize in 2006, Godel Prize in 2006, Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award in 2003, Clay Research Award 2002, apart from being a fellow in major academies. His recent research interest has been in cryptography and cybersecurity. And lastly, but not the least, Professor P. Rajalakshmi. She's a professor in Department of Electrical Engineering, Science Chair Professor in Future Communications, and Project Director of the Technology Innovation Hub in Autonomous Navigations at IIT Hyderabad. Her research areas include autonomous navigation, drone-based sensing, wireless communications, IoT, cyber-physical systems targeting applications like autonomous transportation, aerial and terrestrial, agriculture, healthcare, environmental monitoring, and small buildings. With this esteemed panel here today, I now invite Professor Indranil Manna, President INAE and Vice Chancellor BIT Mesra, to kindly deliver the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Colonel Roy. Good evening and a very warm welcome to this very important event to our academy. We are an academy devoted to engineering, the route to provide solution to various challenges and aspirations of the society by translation of fundamental knowledge. But today we are celebrating Engineers Day, and we are all aware that this is actually in the country now called National Engineers Day, which coincides with the birth anniversary of M. Vishwesvaraya, Bharat Ratna, and one of the iconic figures in the field of engineering. If we really have to impress the community, particularly the youngsters, about the dawns of engineering profession, then obviously M. Vishwesvaraya is the most prominent among them. Incidentally, he lived 100 years, but even in this long period, he just made so many contributions. One wonders that at that age, from 1861 until 1962, a vast period of that was under the British India. How could he actually plan and execute such huge projects like irrigation in the various southern Indian states, the very famous Mysore Reservoir, and various other major engineering implements? For the last couple of years, INAE has decided to celebrate this Engineers Day as a part of our annual calendar. And this is primarily to celebrate the cause of engineering, the achievements, and also the personalities who have made a huge contribution. 2021, we organized this event with Dr. Anil Kakotkar in the chair, and we deliberated upon a topic called Closing Research Innovation Gap. And we were fortunate to have about half a dozen young entrepreneurs, and the entire deliberation was as to what would have made things easier for them, these youngsters, to spin out their companies and enterprises and make it even more successful. Last year, it was devoted to the role of engineers in making India Atmanirbhar. And Dr. Satish Reddy spoke very eloquently, drawing various examples from not only from the DRDO experience, but also various other major project implementation. And this year, we are very fortunate and very proud to have a very eminent panel. You just heard all the names, and probably one couldn't have asked for anything better than these set of panelists. Each one of them are very well known in their own field by their own right. We're also very much grateful to Professor Anurag Kumar, who has kindly agreed to steer the discussion. And the topic that we are discussing is cybersecurity and cyber physical system. Today, there's no denying the fact that we are living in a world which is vastly digital. We like it or not, every now and then we negotiate with our daily activities through various forms of digital implements. And security of late has become quite a bit of concern. So we have former leader of TCS, we have Secretary Government of India, who has overseen very many of these initiatives to ensure cybersecurity or security in various other forms, not just the country's defense. We are fortunate to have Manindra Agrawal, who Cornell right now said is absolutely true, an iconic figure and a role model in computer science, particularly theoretical computer science. And as a transformation, these days, Manindra talks more about application, and that too, he has created a startup company, and he's a director of that company. Similarly, we are very fortunate to have Professor Raji from IIT Hyderabad. And this particular deliberations that we are going to have today is going to be beamed through YouTube. So number of participants there would be much larger, and also will be archived so that people in the future can always refer to. So we have very little time, and Professor Anurag Kumar, thanks very much again for accepting our invitation to steer the discussion. So kindly proceed with this panel discussion, and we all are all ears to listen to the very important discussion. Over to you, Professor Kumar.
Thank you, Professor Manna, for inviting me to steer this panel, and for giving a background about the area and about INAE's activities in general. And thank you, Colonel Rai, for introducing all the speakers. I will now share a few slides. In a couple of minutes, I want to sort of set the stage for our discussions to follow. So, of course, we know where we are, so I don't need to talk about this slide. I'll just go full screen. On the second slide, okay, I don't think I'm able to go full screen, so I'm going to just project it as it is. So I want to remind the audience about the importance of the area as enunciated by the Prime Minister and by the Finance Minister maybe about 5-6 years back. So in his speech to the International Congress, the Prime Minister in 2017 had said, one important area that needs to be addressed is the rapid global rise of cyber-physical systems. There's a need to develop and exploit these technologies in services and manufacturing sectors, in agriculture, water, energy and traffic management, health, environment, infrastructure, and geoinformation systems, security, financial systems, and in combating crime. We need to develop an interministerial mission on CPS. CPS is a short form for cyber systems. A little later, the following year, in the budget speech, the finance minister at that time had said, combining cyber-physical systems has great potential to transform not only innovation ecosystem, but also our economies and the way we live. Department of Science and Technology will launch a mission on CPS to support establishing centers of excellence. And just to recall what happened about 5-6 years before that, the National Science Foundation, while launching their own call for proposals in the area of CPS, had said this: CPS will transform the way people interact with engineered systems, just as the internet transformed the way people interact with information. However, these goals cannot be achieved without rigorous systems engineering. The CPS of tomorrow will need to far exceed the systems of today in capability, adaptability, resiliency, safety, security, and usability. As you can see, topics of the panel discussion like security and CPS are also mentioned here. And as we all know, just in 2019, the government of India, through the DST, launched a very large, the largest program I think I have seen DST launch ever, 3,660 crores, about $500 million about 5 years back. And some of the, Dr. Rajalakshmi from IIT Hyderabad has been a beneficiary of that. And I was on a scientific panel which actually allocated these funds to the various funding, proposing agencies. And this project is now well underway, and it is showing the results which were expected, I understand. Finally, I just want to give one slide on one view of CPS systems, and that is this view. That at the bottom of the CPS system is a physical domain like a civil infrastructure or a farm or a factory or an urban water air traffic system. That's the physical part of CPS. Above them, you have the two cyber parts. That comprises the sensors, actuators, and the communication networks, which interconnect the sensors and actuators. And the topmost layer is the influence and decision-making and control and security. So these two cyber layers Running on top of the physical layer is what comprises CPS, which is the topic of the discussion today, along with security. Now, although this topic has been enunciated as CPS around 2006 in the NSF through a Gill and Baheti white paper, actually CPSs have existed since the early microprocessors. Bosch introduced fuel injection in the 1970s, and that was a CPS also. So the novelty that we are faced with today in the last maybe 10 years is CPS over networks, particularly wireless networks, as IoT networks. And in the large scale of the CPSs, these CPSs cover entire cities and maybe even and large factories and entire farms. And so the scale of the CPS today goes much beyond the CPS that Bosch invented to control the fuel injection in a car in the 1970s. So the challenge we are left with today, which the panel may want to discuss, is to build safe, secure, privacy-preserving, provable, performable CPS systems in this framework. So thank you very much for listening to my overview. And I'd like to hand over the floor to Dr. Ajay Kumar, who can now start speaking about his own statement. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. It's a real honor and a privilege to be part of this very distinguished panel. And I would like to thank INAE for having invited me for this panel discussion on something which is extremely relevant, and its relevance is only increasing with time. We have been saying this for a while, but the importance and significance of cybersecurity has only been increasing with time. I want to make only 3-4 very small points. The first is, we have witnessed growth in our cyber attacks. According to a leading technical report, the number of cyber attacks which we faced in the country was about 18% higher than for the same period last year. The question is, if our cyber attacks have increased, have as a country our preparation also increased by, say, 20%? That's something that we need to look into. The fact is, if we have reaped tremendous benefits and today seen as a role model for using digital development, unless we now raise our level of cybersecurity preparations as we move forward in future, continued benefits from this Digital India program may not be as easy to come by. In this regard, I also want to stress the importance for collaboration. Both government systems and our private sector systems are found wanting when it comes to cybersecurity. And while government needs to attend to its own systems in an expeditious manner, in an emergency manner, but we also need to, I would also like to say that it's very important now, given the scale of our digital activities in the country, that both central and state governments need to come up and support the private sector, especially that segment of the private sector which will not be able to absorb the cybersecurity costs. And this support could be similar in a manner for which government typically supports, say, manufacturing. Today we know we have a PLI scheme to support manufacturing. So I think it's very important as we stand on this juncture to in the future to have government come up with a scheme to support both private and the public sector to improve their cybersecurity. The second point which I want to make is that we are today in a historic period of our digitalization process in India. We are having this panel discussion in the backdrop of Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which has been approved by the Parliament. And this is really a watershed moment, because this is the first time we have a comprehensive personal data protection architecture in the country. And one must compliment the government for having come up with a wonderful balance between protecting digital privacy of the people, as well as ensuring adequate data trade flows. And with severe penalties for not protecting personal data in a legal statutory manner, each of these penalties could go up to 250 crores for each such breach. I would think that this would lead to significantly more effort by the part of all stakeholders to improve their cybersecurity solutions. And it is in this context when I think as a country at a macro level, we will see greater demand for cybersecurity solutions. This is one golden opportunity in passage of time when we can take a big stride in developing our own cybersecurity industry, create our own cyber security products. And here again, it is my view that government could start using indigenous cybersecurity solutions for its own need and set an example for others as well. The next point which I would like to make is with respect to reporting of data breach. I read sometime back that COVID data was found on one of the platforms, but the authorities maintained that there had been no leakage from the COVID database. I do not want to say whether it was from COVID database or elsewhere, but the fact remains that the data reporting practices and my own experience while I was in METI also was that data breach reporting is very poor. People people do not want to report, and this actually creates further complications in improving our cybersecurity ecosystem. Once again, I would like to mention that under the new DPDP Act, there is a legal obligation on all data fiduciaries to report any data breach, and we hope to have better compliance with respect to data breaches as well, and that should help to improve our cybersecurity preparedness. The other big thing about the Data Protection Act, which has been passed, is that it lays the foundation for information flow in an open API architecture. The Digital Empowerment and Protection Architecture, which has already been approved by the NITI Aayog, should help in monetizing data. And if data is the new oil, we are today close to creating a gold standard, as we have done for verifiable digital identity solution, that is Aadhaar, or UPI for financial flows. The DPDP Act lays the basic framework for improving information flow, which will help monetization of data in a big way and will thereby create a secure architecture in this regard. The next point which I want to talk about is with respect to how can we actually, very often our cybersecurity efforts are directed towards strategic sectors like defense, banking, power, etc. But we also know that in the last few years, India has increasingly becoming a hotspot for innovation, for R&D. I have seen this in defense, in space. We have hundreds of startups who are working in critical technology areas under IDEX. Recent success in space, our efforts under the National Quantum Mission or the Deep Sea Mission are all generating global interest. Recently, we signed the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technology with the US, and the tremendous interest as part of Index X between India and US is reflective of our emerging stature in the new technology areas. The point I wanted to make is that with our growing capabilities in innovation and R&D, we need to focus on our cybersecurity in this area. We have seen this has been one of the most vulnerable areas in the country. And on globally, education and R&D is one of the most attacked sectors. Given the fact that we are today becoming reasonably, growth is happening in our innovation and R&D sector, I think we need to have greater focus on improving cybersecurity in our major educational institutions, the IITs, the IISc, the IIMs, and other places of R&D and innovation. The other important point which I would like to pose to this forum is looking at the possibility of starting more active formal cyber insurance in the country. For this, we need to develop a suitable cyber insurance framework in consultation with the leading insurance players in the country. And India could actually take a lead in creating a model for cyber insurance which other countries could also adopt. We often talk of cyber physical systems, where we are looking at cyber security both in the physical systems as well as in the electronic systems. But sometimes cyber security issues emerge because of the part of the processes as well. Recently, government found that 52 lakh fraudulent SIM card connections were issued by 67,000 fraudulent SIM card dealers who did not exist. And last month, these fraudulent SIM cards had led to 66,000 fraudulent WhatsApp accounts and hundreds of cybercrime incidents. And this simple lack of application with respect to the business process of distributing SIM cards, where no KYC was being done for the SIM card dealers in the rush to have greater adoption of mobile telephones, led to this kind of major lacuna in our cyber security. Therefore, I would finally like to say that when we are looking at physical cyber security, we should also look at processes that go into dealing with these systems, wherein also any lacuna could lead to major cyber lapses. This is such a wide topic, and I do not think it is possible in a short time to discuss various issues like post-quantum security, unmanned vehicle security, and there are people, IoT security, trusted supply chains, and so many other issues. There are so many eminent people here who possibly will talk about it. But some of the issues which I thought would be relevant, as I have discussed about, have been mentioned. Once again, thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Kumar, for your statement. I may now request Mr. Ananth Krishnan to please proceed.
Thank you, Professor Kumar. Thank you, Dr. Ajay Kumar, for a very illuminating introductory session. In fact, quite a few things that Professor Anurag Kumar mentioned and what you have mentioned will also be topics that I will touch upon. I will obviously give the industry perspective on both cyber-physical systems and cybersecurity. And from my position, I would like to highlight some of the opportunities from a business perspective and, of course, research and innovation in both these areas. So first of all, on cyber-physical systems, I was on the mission governing board for the National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber-Physical Systems, which was mentioned by Professor Kumar. And as at the mission governing board, we sort of set the guardrails for not just the distribution of a vast amount of investment, but also the governance of it. And now it's in its second cycle. The second mission governing board is taking the work forward. What is the state of the art in cyber-physical systems? Cyber-physical, by definition, is the intersection of computing, networking sciences, and many, many different branches of engineering and science in the human activity sphere. So it has entered the core of many industries, manufacturing, healthcare, transportation, aerospace, energy, utilities, mining, agriculture, defense, construction, and so on. So there is no longer any ivory tower in any of these branches of engineering. Each of these are very vast and deep branches of engineering themselves. So computer science and engineering is now interacting with all of these different branches to make sure that the success potential of delivering outcomes in cyber-physical world is real. It has matured a lot from the 1970s, as was mentioned by Professor Kumar. There is now a state of reasonable maturity in many industries. Questions that are being asked on the here and now are on resilience, on scale. Dr. Ajay mentioned the security concerns, reliability. These are good questions to ask in a mature deployment. And over the last 50 years or so, many cyber-physical questions have been answered at the basic level. So now the core questions are being asked. How can we make it better engineered? The efficiency at the cyber-physical list systems from a technical perspective, can making them faster, making them better, making them more less expensive, more scalable, etc., are also fundamental questions in many branches of cyber-physical in the field. The challenge is to find the human capability at the intersection. I mentioned cyber-physical by nature is a interdisciplinary area. Right from the academic world to the world of engineering, to the world of research, to the world of deployment, support, and end use, if I may say so, that interdisciplinary thinking at the intersection of core disciplines is a challenge. People who have an understanding of the potential of what can be done, or even to pose the right questions and challenges, is, I think, an emerging challenge in almost all of cyber-physical systems. From a business priority perspective, lots of new products are now mainstream. We are talking about connected vehicles and connected cars, intelligent buildings, resilient supply chains, and so on. So there is a growing expectation that there is a potential here for new products to be developed. But the dramatic reimagination, as we call it, of a given company or sometimes even an entire industry, that potential is yet to be fully tapped. There is a concept going around initiated by a Tata Group chairman, Mr. N. Chandrasekharan, who's also a fellow of the Academy, on digital health, using bridging technologies. All of them probably will fall under the cyber-physical umbrella, to transform healthcare. Now, there is a set of technologies which are well understood individually, but can they be used to transform healthcare in India? And that experiment is ongoing in 2 or 3 districts across the country. Academia, industry, and the health system and government are collaborating to bring about that kind of transformation. Many more of these transformational opportunities exist in other industries. There are also cross-industry opportunities to create new business models. Agriculture talks about farm to fork. Now, farm to fork will require the deployment of cyber-physical technologies at the agricultural farm across the entire value chain and supply chains to the consumption, and now the measurement of consumption for addressing longer-term challenges like climate change, etc., etc. Climate change and sustainability itself is a huge business priority for many industries, and cyber-physical systems will play a role. So business-wise, I think the world of business has matured in the last 50 years. Core things are being deployed and new challenges are being discovered. What are the opportunities for research and innovation, both in industry and in academia and in startups in this context? India has the opportunity, as was rightly mentioned by Dr. Ajay, that there is a mass adoption of digital technologies, be it identity, be it payments, be it mobile telephony, etc., etc. Cyber-physical systems will, I think, have a very strong foundation to build on this mass adoption and deliver completely new foundational consumer-facing applications. We are not seeing enough of these today Today, bulk of our mobile telephony is for education, for entertainment, and content consumption. I think there is enormous potential for us to bring that to life in many, many more fundamental human contexts. I mentioned health is one, but there will be many more. The second is to have a deeper penetration of cyber-physical systems into all core industries. And there is a long list of them. Agriculture, I was mentioned, mining is another, construction is another. These are the mother industries. Can these become part and parcel of cyber-physical development? National Mission for Cyber-Physical Systems is one such example where these 25 technology innovation hubs are doing fundamental translational research from the lab to field opportunities. We perhaps would need many more core engineers from both academia and industry to bid for the next cycle of investments. And then, of course, sustainability is a huge research and innovation opportunity. Climate change, carbon, materials design, recycling, circular economy, all of these are going to be impacted significantly and positively by cyber-physical. Changing gears now to cybersecurity, where again, personally, I've been involved in many initiatives at both, of course, the company level, the industry level, and at the government and policy level. The state of the art is good in India. We are talking about the right challenges. We're setting the right benchmarks in terms of what does an open society like us, a democratic society, do in terms of privacy, in terms of resilience, in terms of defense against malicious attacks, intrusion detection, and so on. And that's a good place to be in. However, from a business perspective, after I've retired, I've now started looking at this from a governance and a board position in some organizations. Boards are, I think, more worried about more fundamental things. The technology deployment of cybersecurity is important, but boards first and foremost are worried about risk. What is the risk of not being compliant? Dr. Ajay mentioned DEPA. Now, DEPA and the new legislation on digital privacy and cybersecurity and so on will make much more expectations from industry and other organizations for complying with certain fundamental requirements. So boards are worried about what is the risk of being non-compliant. That's the first thing. By being non-compliant, is my reputation going to suffer? Those are the more foundational problems that business leadership will ask the cybersecurity community. Can you help me reduce the risk? Can you help me identify new risks? Can you make sure that my business is not impacted? Business continuity risk is, of course, the foremost in everybody's mind. Then come the bigger questions. Okay, cybersecurity. If I'm going to do something in a new business opportunity, I'm setting up a new factory, I'm setting up a new supply chain, I'm creating a new product, I'm going to touch a new customer segment. What it should do at a minimum is that the risk to the business should not increase beyond what it is today. These are very fundamental questions at the high level, which boards are asking CEOs, CTOs, heads of business, scientists, engineers, academic institutions, and so on. Manage my risk and don't increase it, at least reduce it for sure. Larger businesses, I think, are reasonably okay. The critical sector, I think, is better than most, whether it's defense, whether it is atomic energy, whether it is space, and so on. There are skills, there are capabilities, and most importantly, there is awareness of technology and the risk factors that I mentioned, that the top 50 companies in India, the top 100 companies will perhaps be at least prepared. They may not be perfect, but they're prepared. Critical sector as well. But Manindra perhaps will touch upon this. He and I have been working on how is it that MSME, the small and medium enterprises and the micro enterprises, the individuals, how do they manage the necessary capacity to manage cybersecurity risk is a big question mark. And it's a growing risk because the number of small and medium businesses in India, the number of startups in India, the number of new risk areas is huge. What are the research and innovation opportunities in this context? That there is a foundation in India, there is a foundation worldwide of maturity at some levels. Other sectors are not as good. risk managing, identifying, reducing risk being the expectation at the fundamental level. What are the opportunities for the researchers and the academia and people in industrial research? AI, I think, is the big elephant in the room. It is not just an opportunity to secure AI itself. Cybersecurity for AI is going to be a huge topic, especially with the proliferation of newer techniques. We're seeing what generative AI can do in so many different ways. I think that's a massive thing. I mean, even to the extent to make sure that this is really Ananth Krishnan speaking and not a bot masquerading as Ananth is a risk that will have to be managed by future INAE sessions. And of course, using AI for cybersecurity is another greenfield area. Post-quantum crypto and so on, I think there is not enough awareness in India of this so-called quantum cryptography event, which will happen perhaps in the next couple of decades. But the preparation for that, I think, has to start beyond just the researchers worrying about it. We have to look at how businesses will prepare for a world where conventional cryptography is likely to be compromised in perhaps in the next coming decade or so. Lastly, I think there is a fundamental challenge which the academic world and the industrial research world have to worry about, which is to make silicon, which is all of cyber physical systems, and carbon, which is all of us, humanity, human beings, they have to stay in lockstep. Human in the loop is often the point of vulnerability. We are the problem as much as systems are the problem. What are the new challenges for learning, for awareness, for interface design, etc., for better cybersecurity? I think it's a very under-penetrated area in research in India, perhaps even globally. Silicon and carbon are neighbors in the periodic table. We pay a lot of attention to silicon, atomic number 14. Not enough attention to the carbon side, atomic number 6, for securing the human as much as we should. Of course, the usual challenges of complexity, scale, etc., are there, and I'll come back to this in a minute. So, in conclusion, if some of you might remember that I had spoken of a framework that I used in my past life as CTO of PCS called the clay map. Right? There are 4 fundamental, shall we say, buckets in which opportunities and investments need to be made. I'll use the same framework. First of all, for helping industry in its current capabilities to address the current opportunities, goes without saying, cyber physical systems and cybersecurity need to worry about efficiency, scale, cost, resilience, etc., etc. From the perspective of what is it that new capabilities can be brought to the table for industry and government and individuals, consumers to take benefit of in the form of new products and new services, I think there is a significant opportunity in just delivering on the promise of 5G, 6G, Industry 4.0, and similar frameworks. A lot of foundational work has been done, investments have been made. The killer applications, like I said in the beginning, a consumer-facing application which is beyond what we already see in 5G, 6G. Industry 4.0 applications which are beyond what many people have already deployed, and so on. That's the new opportunity from the existing capability perspective. For the future, I think the capability gap that I mentioned, collaboration between engineering, business school researchers, industry people, policy makers, for completely new business models, which can be used to transform healthcare, agriculture, and so on. The technology may not be the challenge. The business model and the deployment model is the challenge. So I call upon engineering researchers and business people and business school researchers to collaborate on that. Lastly, a blue sky idea to close. There are significant advancements in all branches of cyber physical systems, the core computing area, the network area, and all branches of engineering. All the usual suspects are here: generative AI, quantum computing, etc., etc. What are the new opportunities that this can be used for, whether it is sustainability related, whether it is fundamental human life related, etc., etc. That's the blue sky opportunity for cyber physical systems to explore in the future. Thank you again for the opportunity. Back to you, Prof. Kumar.
Thank you, Ananth. Thank you very much for a very enlightening presentation. I would like to now invite Professor Agrawal from IIT Kanpur to make his statement.
Thank you, Professor Kumar, and it's a great pleasure to be here in this August panel and sharing my thoughts on cybersecurity specifically. I will limit myself to discussion about the Indian scenario when we talk about cybersecurity. And there is a specific reason for this. Of course, we do get cybersecurity products and services which are from outside India. There are plenty of them available. But there is a special challenge when it comes to cybersecurity, which is that if you want to secure a system, you have to give access to that system completely to a cybersecurity product. Otherwise, that product will not be able to secure. So if there is a weakness in that cybersecurity product itself, the entire system gets even more compromised than it would otherwise be. And therein lies the challenge with respect to a product of cybersecurity from outside India, because the threat was not as much from some individual rogue element, but from state players who are from the certain product coming from a country can potentially be a problem when, say, our country gets into a somewhat conflicting situation with another country. So what this tells us is that while we continue using cybersecurity products to secure our systems from outside the country, there is an absolute requirement to develop our own ones. And the scenario with respect to that currently in our country is, I would say, in initial stages. We have certain companies. TCS is one of them. A number of startups which have got initiated over the last few years. They are designing and developing and deploying certain cybersecurity products, but there is still a very long way to go. We do not have at the moment major or very central products, let's say like a antivirus software at a scale, or a tool that can secure a system in a nearly automated fashion, or a tool that can analyze a hardware for any Trojan sitting inside that. So these are challenging problems, and we still have to find solutions to that indigenously. The one big challenge that is in front of us with respect to development of such tools is a lack of an ecosystem. We do not have major centers of cybersecurity knowledge in our country. There are, let's say, many institutions which have some amount of expertise, but when we look at a very significant initiative or groups who are doing this at scale, we don't really have some such examples. And that results in a kind of a shortage of highly trained cybersecurity professionals, which in turn impacts the development of tools, services, and so on. So we need to step up in this aspect and need to perhaps follow something that Israel did many years ago. They have been very successful. In fact, Israel today is one of the world's leading country where the cybersecurity products are coming from. So we need to perhaps emulate them. They created this ecosystem which involves academia, startups, industries, the users and the entities. They all are very tightly connected. They, in fact, they have this training program for absolute leading edge cybersecurity experts who work for the government in lieu of their military service. And then after a few years, they move on to startups or companies. And by that time, they are so well trained that they are able to lead the development of great products. So that's what I think we need to look at closely. And I'm grateful that the government of India did realize the need for this. And as Professor Kumar mentioned that in 2019, this national mission on cyber physical system that was launched, one component of that is a technology innovation hub in cybersecurity was set up at IIT Kanpur with a charter to develop the services and products in cybersecurity and not just stop there, but also deploy them. Nucleate startups, promote startups in this domain, nucleate R&D in this domain, and do training at scale. So, basically connecting or covering a large spectrum of activities in cybersecurity domain. We are working towards our charter or achieving our charter. We have still a very long way to go. We have made a good start. We today have a 40 plus startups which are incubated by us, large number of R&D projects. More interestingly, we are also doing training at scale. We recently concluded a training program for undergraduate students. More than 10,000 students joined that, and it provides a basic training on cybersecurity essentials. We are set up as a Section 8 company, so we are also therefore able to hire very good engineers and who are helping us develop products, develop services, which we are offering particularly to organizations which you can call critical for the country, critical infrastructures, powers, ports, highways, authorities, oil refineries. We just started a security audit of a Billai steel plant. So a focus on securing the critical infrastructure and developing and deploying products for the same. Also, another aspect which has been touched upon and which is probably in the minds of everyone is the cyber crime. That how does one stop? One cannot stop, but how does one reduce the cyber crime which is really spreading very fast in our country? Every day one hears about some compromise or the other. Even there are a number of fraudulent activities with respect to UPI transactions that are happening today. So there is therefore a need to develop strong tools. Like I said, one cannot stop cybercrime, but one needs to be able to detect them, identify the source of those, and create an evidence chain which leads to conviction of such people in the courts. There is, it's very easy to tamper with the cyber evidence because you take a hard disk which contains some data which helps you prove certain thing. But at the time of taking possession of that hard disk, if you do not take a dump of all the data and right there certify that this is the data that has been stored there, the evidence doesn't stand in the court because the hard disk can always be modified, and the victim, or not the victim, the accused can claim that I never had the data in the disk. It is the law enforcement agencies who have added the data later on. So there are these very specific challenges that exist with respect to a cybercrime investigation and evidence collection. And we need to develop tools which allow and help our law enforcement agencies to do their task properly. So the challenges, therefore, are very huge. We need a number of initiatives in our country for taking care of them. And Mr. Ananth Krishnan mentioned one other specific challenge related to MSMEs, because we have a large number of MSMEs who have today number of computers. A lot of work or business they do is over internet. They use cloud for storing the data and operations. Yet the concept of security there is very weak. At the same time, they are unable to afford expensive solutions. So how do you provide very cheap but good solutions to FSMEs at scale? And that's something that we have had in discussions with TCS at our hub, and we are working on creating, using some of our startups, a suite of solutions which come at a very reasonable price. So these are my initial thoughts about cybersecurity situation in our country, and I hope that at C3I Hub we will be able to play a crucial role in establishing cybersecurity in our country. And I also hope that there will be many other groups in our country, industry, startups, academia, who will come forward and join hands, because cybersecurity is going with time, is going to become increasingly important as our activities move in the digital space. The chances of fraudulent activities increase very rapidly. The incentive for the wrong-minded people increases, because they can access potentially the information anywhere across the country, sitting at one location, and play around with it. So we need to really get together and join hands to address this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Agrawal. May I now request Professor Rajalakshmi to make her statement?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Mark. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, so I'll give a brief overview of the activities at IIT Hyderabad. Under this National Mission on Cyber Physical Systems, as Professor Anurag already mentioned, we have a hub on autonomous navigations at IIT Hyderabad under this National Mission on Cyber Physical Systems. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is. It's not full screen. Now it's full screen also. Right.
So as I was saying, we work on autonomous navigation. So we are, moving towards safe, sustainable, smart next generation mobility solutions. Where we are focusing on real-time autonomous navigation, data acquisition, the most important, component of any autonomous systems. Okay, starting from all the verticals. I would say it is an interdisciplinary program. Where core research areas or the work groups consisting of systems, sensors, control, communication aspects, AI/ML aspects, edge compute aspects, design, security, simulation, safety, testing, validation, along with the business, that is the business case studies, and also the entrepreneurship and management aspect. All these aspects are part of our the cyber physical systems. So primarily, if you see the activities, as Manindra was also saying, this along with technology research and development. It's primarily focusing on translational research. A lot of entrepreneurship activities, lot of collaborative activities. That's where, if you see on this autonomous navigations area, we have more than 30 startups funded, are supported, which are carrying out research in this area on different aspects of transportation. We have multiple R&D collaborators, which are other institutes, not only the host, but also the other institutes and other R&D labs. We have more than 40 faculty from not only IIT, but also from all across the country working with us in this area of autonomous navigations. Different kind of fellowship programs. And, as already mentioned, continuous workshops, training programs, where multiple people have been created, a lot of human resource and skill development activities are also going on as part of it. At IIT Hyderabad, most important contribution, I would say, as a cyber physical activity in autonomous navigation is, I would say, the state-of-the-art autonomous navigation test bed, which is one of its kind in the country in an academic setup. So this is our campus. Just use a pointer. Yeah, so this is our campus, and on the northernmost corner of the campus, we have created exclusive proving ground for the technology that we are developing to be immediately taken to the ground and proved. So if you see, it is, we have a lot of test tracks, different kinds of test tracks for an autonomous vehicle to be tested and validated, sharp S-curves, 3-lane roads, 2-lane roads, different kind of infrastructures like, smart poles with connectivity. And I would say, it is first of its kind, and also the 5G based edge cloud being integrated to the test bed, where we are talking about over-the-air updates for the autonomous systems or autonomous vehicles. So this autonomous navigation test bed at IIT Hyderabad is actually, helping a lot, not only the technology development at the academic institutes, but also the startups and the industry to come forward, collaborate, and come up with the technology. So some of the use cases, at least few of them, I would like to highlight, which have gone already for TiHAN levels, like 8 and above, where some of them have been deployed in real times. Okay, so autonomous ground vehicles specifically, we work on complete driving stack development, which consists of multiple sensors depending upon whatever sensor it is, a multimodal sensor, okay, and perception stack, planning and control. So the complete autonomous driving stack have been deployed on different type of vehicles, which you can see here. The most important, this is one of the OEM's vehicle, which have been imported to India, where our autonomous stack for the Indian scenarios are being developed, tested and trial, which will be used by the OEM as well. So going forward, whenever I said about this, multimodal sensor, if you see open source data sets like the popular ones in the, I would say, which are used for autonomous driving stack development is like TiHAN, okay, which is not capturing the Indian scenario, which is supposed to be the most heterogeneous mixed traffic scenario. So we have started, an initiative of data collection in the Indian context. We have multimodal data set. You can see we have camera, then LiDAR, then radar. First of its kind again in the country, where multimodal data set, which is similar to a NewSyn data set, that is being created, where a data collection vehicle, you can see here, is going regularly in the Hyderabad city roads. Various roads are being covered, and that data is extensively used for whatever the driving stack development, which is being deployed in the different kind of context. So if you see here, we have already tested and trial continuous, I would say, a swarm of ground vehicles. We have spoken earlier about swarm of aerial vehicles. Now in this context, you can see it's a swarm of ground vehicles. Okay, it's more like a platooning service. Okay, which are actually following a standard, safety practices as per the Euro NCAP. Safe distances between them, obstacle avoidance, and what we are demonstrating here again is a all light conditions. So this is during the night time. The complete vehicle is fully autonomous, following each other at a safe distance. Euro NCAP standard have been used to develop this technology, and this have been already tested, validated. You can see each of the vehicle following the other, stopping at safe distance and moving in the test track. And this vehicle, I would say that we have recently launched this autonomous campus shuttle vehicle in IITH campus itself. It is open to all as a service in the campus, where all the people who are using the campus shuttle also can board this autonomous campus shuttle service at IIT campus. So this is one of the, again, our campus video in which, these are our main boulevards, and this is the test track. Again, you can see the hangars and different kind of test tracks where first proof of concept happens again, as we were saying, different kind of vehicles are being tested and validated here. And now I think we will quickly go to campus shuttle vehicle, flying in the campus roads. Yeah, this is the data collection vehicle. So this is our campus shuttle vehicle. So we have a safety driver, and we can see, people boarding the vehicle. And so this is very interesting, like it is continuously, regularly, being launched, or I would say the regular services are being conducted in the campus roads, which is being used by people in the campus between the main hostel and the main gate. Yeah, again, you can see it, vehicles slowing down with obstacle detection, avoidance capabilities at safe distances. So this same vehicle, again, it's deployed in the campus, and the same technology now we have recently deployed in Vizag Naval Dockyard as well, where they are actually very keen to deploy this autonomous campus shuttle in some of their dockyards. So the same technology have been deployed there for a month or so on a trial basis. So that is about the ground vehicle, one use case. Again, we also work a lot on the off-road vehicles, which is useful for, I would say, precision agriculture, mining applications. So these are some of these prototypes that we have been working on. So coming quickly to the aerial vehicles, again, we work on different category of vehicles. Specifically, I would like to mention that on a smaller vehicle, that is micro nano category, we are mainly focusing on bio-inspired kind of vehicles. This is more useful for security surveillance purposes. And in the small category, this is again mainly focusing on agriculture purposes. I will be showing later. We have very high-end cameras like hyperspectral mounted on this, and without any human intervention, automated pipelines are being created on this huge amount of data that is being created for different kind of applications. At this point of time, I would say, it is it may be like different phenotype, crop trait studies, disease characteristic studies, nutrient study of the soil. All these kind of activities are very actively being pursued on this kind of vehicles, aerial vehicles for agriculture applications. So we closely work with the state universities and also with international, organizations like ICRISAT, where we get a lot of data and develop, end-to-end automated pipeline for, analytics on the data. Okay, and going forward, we are also working on, urban air mobility solutions, like I would say air cargos or heavy payload drones. So these activities are going on, mainly focusing, I would say swarm of network drones. Again, this network drone, again, for distributed surveillance. I would say, swarm of drones. Now we are very much familiar with the swarm of drones for entertainment purposes, where they vertically spread in the space. Whereas when we talk about swarm of drones, here they spatially spread, horizontally, covering a larger area for distributed surveillance purposes. So we have tested up to 40 drones, which are completely networked and can be coordinated from a central ground control station. And many, again, precision landing, precision navigation with the help of sensor fusion is again one of the important area that we are actually working on. The most important, the GPS denied kind of environments, both at the ground level as well as the aerial level vehicles. We are working on those kind of technology development as well. So this is again one use case I thought I'll just show you where it is beyond visual line of sight, where our we have launched actually carrying medicine from our campus hospital to the hostels, which are almost like I would say a co-flight distance of more than 1 kilometer distance, where the vehicle have been launched, and you can continuously track the vehicle from the ground control station, as well as monitor the vehicle. And this have been very successfully demonstrated. Now we are also planning to go and deploy the same technology in one of the northeastern states. There is a request from some of the I would say service providers there who wanted medical service to be provided from their garages, medical godowns, to PHCs, which are in different hilly areas from the centralized location. So we are now soon going to take up that project and deploy the same service, for kind of medical drone delivery, I would say, beyond visual line of sight. Again, this is again, as I was saying, the swarm of drones. Again, here we are showing just 3, but as I was saying, we have tested more than 40. And this is very, very useful for distributed surveillance purposes. And again, in this context, there are different labs which are working closely with us in GPS denied kind of aerial applications, within the, I would say, closed door scenarios where they wanted the aerial vehicle to come up with the complete surveillance possibilities. So, yeah. So the next important thing, we are moving towards something like edge cloud-based compute, instead of having compute on the devices, on the vehicles, how to offload the compute into an edge cloud. Okay, so such kind of activities are also going on where we are talking of over-the-air updates, OTA frameworks. The OTA framework can enable more, I would say both software kind of services, middleware or firmware, hardware, firmware kind of services, okay, which is again very much prone to all kind of security threats. So we are coming up with secure, I would say, edge-enabled, edge cloud-based autonomous vehicle, both it is ground as well as aerial solutions for this. We have already had a prototype on a very simple service of drone offloading to the cloud through 5G. We are doing extensive services where testing R&D on integrating security and huge amount of data being offloaded through communication network. Yeah. So going forward, secure end-to-end connectivity, multimodal transportation solutions would be the most sustainable solutions, which we are actually working on. Integrating different kind of modes of transport is going to be the sustainable way of transportation solutions. And we strongly believe, next generation secure mobility solutions, will be able to play a mark and provide a collaborative platform for academia, industry, and R&D labs, both national and international. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rajalakshmi, for a very interesting overview of your NMICPS Center in IIT Hyderabad. So at this point, we have heard from Dr. Ajay Kumar about the government perspective, all that the government has done to keep our digital system secure and what needs to be done. We've heard from Mr. Ananth Krishnan about the industry perspective on CPS and cybersecurity. Dr. Agrawal, Professor Agrawal spoke about the cybersecurity center set up under the NMICPS program in IIT Kanpur, and he has indicated some of the shortcomings that we have in our cybersecurity innovation ecosystem, which IIT Kanpur is trying to address. You heard from Professor Rajalakshmi from IIT Hyderabad about the great successes they've had in learning and implementing autonomy in various kinds of vehicles. I had planned to ask questions myself, but it will not be fair because we only have 10 minutes remaining. So I would like to now throw open the question and answer session to the audience. And so may I now request people to introduce themselves and ask a question from the panelists.
So Kumar, I think I'll make the beginning here. I know nucleation is always the biggest difficulty. So let me begin with a very short question to any of the panelists. These days, and it's going to be a very naive question as part of the audience. I often wonder that these days, wherever I check in, be a hotel or buy anything, merchandise, or people ask for the cell phone number. Now, we have changed the entire setup in the society where the use of landline today is practically different. And the entire system has moved towards cell phone based communication and also as identification, as a tool for identification. I mean, has it not created more vulnerability? I mean, any of the panelists?
Would someone like to answer that? Perhaps Dr. Ananth Krishnan?
I'll take a shot at that.
Manindra, go ahead. Yeah.
This is more a invasion of privacy. Vulnerability does exist, yes. I mean, there are techniques through which one could clone the SIM. Once your number is known, one could clone your SIM and then using that to do some, capture the OTP and do something with your account. But that's more than that, I would say this is the invasion of privacy that everybody seems to have mobile number of everybody else, and you get all kinds of calls.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I just want to kind of give my bit on this. I think it's you have to see what is the challenge that we are trying to address when we do this. And the challenge is, how do you verify an identity of a person in a country like India, where, you have large population and you also do not have ways and means of other verifiable identity like possibly you have in the Western world. You have no other mechanism. With Aadhaar, we created that identity, but Aadhaar itself, verifying it requires proliferation of authentication devices, biometric devices, which will be further invasion of privacy, as Professor Manindra mentioned. So, mobile provides a light verification of identity. Wherever the mobile is seeded with the Aadhaar, it actually provides you a very solid identity verification. But even when it is not seeded with the Aadhaar, you are relying on the KYC which was done at the time of issuing the SIM. And to that extent, it provides a certain automatic verification. The assumption is with the mobile number, you have the identity which can be verified based on the KYC which was done by the service provider. And to that extent, you have an answer of verifying identity. Otherwise, all previous methods of various other paper-based identification systems are very suspect to all kind of duplication, fake documents, etc. Thank you.
Ananth, you had a response also?
I was just going to say that it's an instance of that carbon versus silicon story that I briefly mentioned. That a landline phone can be misused by a person who's trying to get your information by putting you a fake call and getting all kinds of bank account details and so on. So it's not really the mobile phone is not the culprit. The fact that human beings end up, being vulnerable as a result of the much higher penetration of mobile phones. I think that's the equivalent challenge. All the things that Dr. Ajay mentioned and then Manindra mentioned, I agree with.
If I may also add, Professor Manna, actually, people asking for your phone number at a point of sale actually is a kind of a scam. They don't really need it, and you are under no obligation to give that number. They're using it to collect a database of phone numbers to then spam with advertisements. There's no obligation to give a phone number at a point of. In fact, I began to say no when I'm asked for the number.
If I may just add to supplement to that, Professor Anurag, now under the new DPDP Act, if they do this, they are subject to the liabilities that are provided in the Act.
Okay.
Of course, implementation we'll have to wait and see, but there is a legal framework that will that's meant exactly to address that kind of misuse.
Okay, that's a very good beginning for questions. We had a very interesting discussion on that. Any other questions from the audience, please?
Quantum resistant security measures. Chandan, I think from IIT Kharagpur.
Yeah, it says that what would be the top priorities in safeguarding patient data from quantum threats in health informatics? I think that's Manindra. You want to take that?
I think one just needs so fortunately we have new public key algorithms approved by this NIST through a worldwide contest, which identifies encryption algorithms which will work even in the presence of quantum computers. So what we need to do, as I think Ananth also mentioned, that shift the current usages of algorithms, which are liable to be broken by quantum computers, over time to the post-quantum algorithms. And then we will be back to the situation where the encryption will remain secure.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
sir, if I can add a practical
Sure.
rule of thumb that we in industry have started using. In fact, there is a semi-formal framework called Mosca's theorem, which is becoming quite well known in industry, as to when should that trigger point or transition be thought about. So it essentially looks at the particular industry. In this case, Chinmay has talked about health, but there is always a window of stored data that is vulnerable because that is encrypted with current algorithms. How long does that particular industry store the data is a known variable. Secondly, is a guess variable to say when will a bad actor or a governmental actor or any actor publish a strong enough quantum machine which can break currently known secure algorithms, prime factoring being one such. That is a guess. You might say 3 years away, 5 years away, 7 years away. It may not be disclosed also, but you put a guess number there. And thirdly is the value of the data that you have to worry about. Right? In this case, patient data is somewhat valuable because it is private to a patient, etc., and it is legally enforceable. DEPA and others will talk about it. So you take these three variables, you juggle it through some framework which Mosca's theorem talks about, and then say by 2030 I should implement post-quantum crypto in my industry, in my country. Right? So that is what people are beginning to use.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we can move on to the next question. There is a hand raised by Sanat Kumar. Can you please maybe turn on your video and ask the question?
My video is not coming, but doesn't matter. I will ask the question.
Sanat Kumar, go ahead, please. Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Am I audible?
To me, you are, yes.
Yes, okay. As a nuclear engineering person, I would like to cite two events of cybersecurity, but both are fairly old. A lot of water has flown under the bridge. One was recently our own Kudankulam, where somebody claimed that they were able to access our computers. And of course, our answer was that the computers that they accessed were not part of the reactor control, but they were HR related. And these two systems have got an air gap, and therefore they do not interact. That's what they answered, they told. But another earlier one, which had a disastrous effect, was the Iran enrichment plant, where the Germans were able to, or Germans or Americans, I don't know, they were able to put in a virus, and it simply spoiled all the high-speed centrifuges. So now, have we gone? And they said that it was all happened because they had a system which in which a programmer could change the program by inserting a pen drive. And of course, now they have said that no pen drive, nobody else can come and put all that they have said. But is this kind of a thing can happen again and again in our systems also? Can it happen? You already, when talking, you said atomic energy people are aware of it. So I am not quite aware. So can you explain exactly what is happening? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Is anybody here an expert on cybersecurity for nuclear power plants? I didn't hear that from anybody's statement. I don't know if anybody is.
Not specifically, sir, but I can take a crack because we do work with a lot of critical industries. But in India, we don't work in the nuclear sector. But Point well taken on the problem raised, that it is a critical sector. It is very sensitive. The incident mentioned, both the incidents mentioned, I think, are pointers to what kind of damage can be done. Awareness, I think, is certainly there. At a general level, the steps being taken by the whoever are the responsible people for cybersecurity for the Indian nuclear establishment, I think, are good. And I think Manindra would agree that good is not good enough in today's context of cybersecurity. And so we have to continuously be very paranoid about all these bad events which can happen. So that is the state of the art. So it is a little bit like what we used to all play as children, Chor Sipahi. So the Chor will always be ahead of the Sipahi for part of the game, then the Sipahi will be better, and then back and forth. So nothing is perfect in the world of cybersecurity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ananth. Any other questions from the audience, from the attendees? I don't see any hands raised. Just to quickly, yeah, there's a question from somewhere?
Yeah, in the chat box.
Oh, in the chat box. Oh, I see. Okay. So the question is, for what application? I think this is addressed to Professor Rajalakshmi. What application of swarm UAVs have been implemented in IIT Hyderabad, and what are the major challenges that you have faced in the implementation?
Yes, sir. So this is very interesting, actually. So first, as I was saying, distributed surveillance, we had, cameras fixed on the drones, which are actually, aerially surveying the 600-acre campus of IIT Hyderabad. So that is the first application that we have deployed. So the challenge, obviously, at this point of time, the endurance of the drones, actually that is where, we have to actually plan the network carefully, that the complete area is being actually, surveillance is taken care with appropriate endurance, or the network lifetime is also ensured. That is first challenge, I would say. And the second thing, when it is actually going to do this kind of, surveillance real time, then the communication, connectivity of these drones, because we are talking about, network drone. So, how do we ensure that all the swarms or the nodes of the swarm network are continuously connected to the network? Okay, so these are some of the challenges which we have actually encountered in physical deployment in the campus, and we are also working on solutions. That's where we are now moving towards, cellular-based connectivity solutions. But of course, when we move towards such solutions, then the ultra-low latency requirement for real-time operations is a critical one. So such kind of R&D activities are actually happening. That I would say for swarm of drones.
Very good. So thank you very much. No more questions from the audience here. I don't see the chat box. I'll raise a question, hoping that other people will speak up by then. So this is addressed to Mr. Ananth Krishnan. There's been a lot of talk of Industry 4.0 almost for a decade now. But in the area of CPS, it's considered to be one of the hot topics. It's really going to change the factories. It hasn't happened yet. In fact, it's not even happened very much in Europe and the US. So what is the reason for that, Ananth?
So there's a practical reason for it, in the sense that the maturity of the current factory investments is very high. So like all incumbent technologies, a factory which was, let's say, established in the mid-90s, early 2000s, etc., is still actually economically quite viable. And therefore, to bring in a new technology in a big bang approach is always a commercial challenge, in the sense that, well, there is useful life of 5 years, 10 years left, depreciation is yet to kick in, and so on. So there will be a much higher scrutiny of the benefit case for any incremental improvement. So that is problem number one. The other side of the equation is that wherever we have installed new plant, completely new plant, that is plants which were, let's say, designed, built, and deployed in the post-industry 4.0 awareness era. They are highly sensorized, they're highly automated, roboticized, etc., etc. Whatever might be the aspect of industry 4.0, AI-based analytics, and all of that. They are better than what they were originally designed for. They're replacing less efficient plants and so on. But on the other side, the benefit cases are still being worked on, in the sense that a business typically takes a year, 2 years, 3 years to gather all the data, run all the numbers, and say, yes, now let us move to this new generation of technology. So it's that technology adoption cycle, which I think will take time. We in engineering don't pay enough attention to the actual lag time of a large capital-intensive industry. They talk in terms of decades. Energy utilities, steel plants, cement plants, etc., etc. They take a long time to recover their cost of investment. So we are in that phase. I think in the last decade there have been sufficient stories, deployments, best practices, successes, lessons learned also in what actually works in Industry 4.0. It will pick up and accelerate in this decade. That's why I'd also made a brief mention that in the continuous improvement quadrant of investment, many of these technologies are at that early stage of being proven. The next 3, 5, 7 years, we'll see mainstreaming of all of these, including 5G, 6G, etc., etc. Technology proving is one thing, but for the CFOs and the boards to open their purses and say, okay, here is 500 crores to build a new plant completely Industry 4.0, it is happening, but not mainstream enough.
Mr. Kumar, I may add that Industry 4.0 probably will be more easy to implement in the industries which are heavily automated already. Not so much in a typical manufacturing sector like Ananth mentioned about cement and steel. I can just comment from my own experience that these industries, many decisions are taken on the spot at the spur of the moment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these things will be difficult.
Well, one very important aspect of Industry 4.0 is to monitor the machinery itself rather than manage the manufacturing process. And I find that still very archaic techniques are used to monitor machinery in even very sophisticated factories. So I probably it may be the low-hanging fruit eventually to monitor machinery under the Industry 4.0 framework.
Yeah, that's quite possible. Yeah. What about manpower training? I think Manindra mentioned that the C3I hub has trained some 10,000 students or something. Where are the trainers? Do we have enough competent faculty members who actually can take such courses? Can we do something on, let's say, even INAE can volunteer to create a platform and collect experts? Do you think that will be very much successful?
Yeah, if done well, that could be useful because we do not have, like I said, large groups in any one place. So bringing people from different places on one platform with expertise in different aspects of cybersecurity, and then creating a structure around it and a theme around that would probably be good.
You mentioned about Israel model. I mean, how do they do?
Oh, they have they have in a small area in Tel Aviv, they have 2 universities, Tel Aviv University, another one, host of startups, Ben Gurion, and host of startups, number of companies, everything is then probably a 10 square kilometer area. And there's a lot of back and forth synergy. Kids get trained in the universities, move out, to startups, and like I said, there is this very interesting channel where in lieu of their compulsory national service in the armed forces, they identify some really smart kids who have an aptitude for hacking, and then they put them into this training program. And then after the training program, they go to the government-run labs where they do cybersecurity, both defensive and offensive, activities. And then after a few years, they're deemed to have completed their compulsory armed forces training, and they move out.
Thank you, sir. Now, it is my proud privilege to present the vote of thanks on behalf of INAE. We are extremely grateful to this honorable panel for today's panel discussion, which was organized on the occasion of the Engineers Day 2023. We're extremely grateful to Dr. Ajay Kumar, IAS, Mr. K. Ananth, Krishnan, Dr. Professor Manindra, Agrawal, and Professor P. Rajalakshmi for their extremely rich and valuable contributions in today's discussion. On behalf of INAE, I'm also extremely grateful to Professor Anurag, Kumar for steering today's panel discussion and tying the whole program together. We are also grateful to the audience who I'm sure would have greatly benefited. And to those who are present today, may I announce that this particular program, with the consent of the panelists, we would be putting on the INAE website for future posterity and access to the interested community. I thank President INAE for creating this opportunity. And with that, I propose to close today's program. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.